Do you want to see how I made this mid-century modern credenza? Keep watching and I'll show you how. This is part 2 of my 2-part video series showing the construction of how I made this piece. Step 1 is laying out the dovetails. I like to lay them out on a piece of scrap wood first and then transfer the marks to the finished piece. Then I use a marking gauge to set the depth of cut. This also gives you a place for your chisel to ride once you're cutting out the tails. Then I use this plywood jig to mark the tails. This one's 20 degrees. I think that's just a good looking angle. It doesn't have to be 20 degrees. It can be whatever angle you like. Next, I'm going to cut the tails on the table saw. I'm going to set the blade to 20 degrees. Then I have this homemade jig that I hold the tail board in and just run it through the blade carefully. Set the depth with a scrap of wood. Takes a few tries to get it exactly right. So here's the finished tailboard. Sort of line it up and cut all the tails on one side first. Then you flip the board around and you can cut the other side. So I really like this table saw method. I've done this a bunch of different ways. I used to do it all with the hand saw. But this really is like the fastest, most accurate way for me to do this. But you see for yourself. Try all the other methods. There's a lot of people on YouTube telling you how to do this. Try them all. See what works for you. And that's finished. What they look like. Next, we gotta chisel everything out. Sit down, get comfortable. It's gonna take a while. Clamp it down to the bench, get your chisel good and sharp, and just have at it. It's going to take a while. You got to be patient. So I work one side first, go about halfway down. Then you roll the board over and chisel through to the other side. You don't get it all on one side. You gotta do it one half at a time. Just works better that way. So here's another quick tip that works pretty good. I use these corner clamps to clamp the tail board to the pin board, and this allows you to like really get this thing accurate. You can sort of finely tap it in place till it's just right. And then I like to use a marking knife to mark all the tails into the pin board. That's coming up here in a second. Here we go. So here's the marking knife. Just get in there, mark the tails, and this is going to give you like a nice clean starting point for your handsaw when you go to cut the tails. You'll find that will be very helpful when you go to cut these out. So again, just like the chiseling, this is just kind of, it's slow and tedious. You really got to get these cuts like just right, or you're never going to get these two boards together. They're going to fight you. But take your time. It takes a lot of practice. You'll get it. There's no quick way to do this. Just take your time. Good lighting helps. Get all the light you can on there. And it's a super awkward position to saw in, so that makes it more fun. So now that you got that part done with the dovetail saw, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to remove a lot of the waste. I'm not going to cut all the way to that scribe line, but I'm going to cut pretty close to the scribe line that we made earlier. So I do this with two coping saws. One's just set with a straight blade, standard. Then the other coping saw, I turn the blade 90 degrees. This one's turned to 90 degrees. And then you can cut out the remaining waste. And what this is going to do is it gives you a place for the flush cut router bit to ride. So we're going to finish these cuts with a router. Again, this is the cleanest way I found to do this. I tried all the other methods, and this one works great for me. So to get the router stable, you need to clamp like an auxiliary fence on there, so you have more surface area for the router base to ride on. So you just get that flush with the end of the pins. Fight with the clamp a little bit. You can see the struggle in real time. No editing here. There you go. Sort of tap it in place. Check everything with the square. And that's what it looks like. And there's the router. I have a flush trim bit in there. The bearing's close to the base, so I'm just riding the bearing along the tails. Or the pins. Yeah, the pins. The bearing's riding against the pins, and then the bit's cutting up to the scribe line we made with the marking gauge. And there it is, all done. So on this credenza, the front face meets at 45 degrees. So mark that out, and you have to, the only way to do it is to cut it with a handsaw. And then you kind of sneak up on it with a chisel to get a good fit. But again, with the marking knife, you're gonna really like having a marking knife when you're doing dovetails. Saw's gonna ride right in that groove there. And here we go, moment of truth. Is it gonna fit? Yeah, this one went pretty smooth. I got lucky. This one fit first try. They don't always fit first try. Like, if you have to file and shave it with a chisel, don't be surprised. If you actually get this thing to fit first try, like I just did, it's pure luck. But I'll take it. If you do it enough times, you got to get lucky eventually. So next up is I'm going to cut the grooves in the top and bottom. This piece has sliding doors. So I'm just going to cut a 1/2 inch groove with a plunge router. And then the door is going to lift up and then drop down and just slide in these grooves. Make sure you don't cut through your dovetail. That would really suck. You'll ruin the whole piece. So make sure you stop the router before you go all the way through the end of the dovetail there. I like fiberglass resin. It's cheap. You can get it anywhere. Dries quick. I don't like epoxy tables or anything, but I use resin to salvage pieces of wood that are cracked or have like huge knots or voids, and that's what I'm doing here. I just mix it up in a paper cup, and I'm going to pour it into these knots, and that'll just sort of stabilize it. Dries clear, so it kind of takes on the color of whatever's underneath it. So it's really, you don't really see it. A lot of people like put black dye in it and stuff. I don't think it's necessary. I go right out of the can. Pour it in the knot, dries in like 10-15 minutes, assuming you mixed it right, and sand it smooth. You're ready to go. So this is what a really stressful glue up looks like. If you've ever heard somebody talk about a stressful glue up, this is it. I don't think a glue up can get more stressful than this. You gotta hammer all the dovetails in, and like I'm doing this alone. If I had a shop assistant, this would be so much less stressful, but I don't have a shop assistant. It's all up to me. So I hammer everything in. I hope to God it fits. And then I roll the piece around, screw the bottom half together. Then I use these spacer blocks so I can draw the dovetail tight. I just sort of spring clamp the spacer blocks in place. The back of the spacer block has packing tape on it so it doesn't glue itself to the cabinet. And I have these monster antique clamps that are going to pull the whole thing tight. Now I'm cutting the grooves for the inner partitions. That's so we can have a place to mount the drawers and the adjustable shelves on each side. This piece I use maple on the inside. I know Nakashima did that a lot too. It's just like walnut's so expensive. So I usually go with a less expensive wood for the interior of the cabinet. Cabinet makers have been doing that since the beginning of time. They're just some 1/2 inch plugs I use to cover the screw holes. It's another Nakashima detail. This is my favorite part, sanding up the dovetails so you can see what the final look's going to be. It's a pretty tight fit. I'll end up putting a little bit of filler in there, but not much. So this is more maple. I'm just prepping the wood for the drawers on the inside. So if you're still watching this video 15 minutes in, thank you. Sincerely, thank you. If you dig what I'm doing, this is what I do. I build mid-century modern furniture designs, and I talk about it. So if you dig what I'm doing, subscribe. It'd be really great to squeeze a few bucks out of YouTube and get paid for all this. Leave a comment, ask me a question. If I see it, I'll answer you. Then back to work here. Gonna cut everything to length. Here I'm gonna change from a regular blade to a dado blade. I'm gonna cut grooves into the side of the drawers. Right there. It's just a 3/4 groove, like halfway through the side. These drawers are gonna hang on rails. That's what's gonna make them slide. Then I do this like locking miter kind of thing for the front of the drawer. I'll have a better shot of it coming up. It's again another George Nakashima signature design. I've seen this on a lot of his pieces. Just kind of a quick, easy way to make a high quality drawer front that'll never pull apart. That's not a dovetail. So that's the dry fit. You can kind of see the locking detail in that shot. Just going to cut out a handle for the front. Just do that on the bandsaw. And here we go, gluing the drawers together. A lot less stressful than gluing together the through dovetails on the cabinet case. There it is, finished drawer. That's the locking miter I was talking about. Pretty simple to make. Next up, I'm going to make the sliding doors. So if you remember the very first photo of this cabinet, the door has a bunch of little slats in it. I just cut dados in the top and bottom. And then behind all the slats is fabric glued to plywood. Gives it a cool like two-tone textured kind of vibe. Just gotta set the depth of the blade. Again, it takes a while. A couple of test pieces. Then this is, I don't know what you call this jig. Another homemade jig. It allows you to cut all the grooves like exactly spaced. You cut the groove, move it over, it sits on the pin, cut the next groove. It's something like a box joint jig or something like that. Doesn't really matter. You get the idea. So first cut, set it up against the stopper, make the cut, lift the piece up, set it on the pin, make the next cut, and repeat 17 times. Then you'll be ready. So this board is the top, bottom, and middle. I cut it all at once and then rip it later. That keeps all the dados accurate, so you're not messing with 3 boards, you're just doing 1 board. Then these are the slats. You just need to notch the top, bottom, and middle and cut them to width. If I can, I use a wide board and cut cut all the slats sequentially so the grain kind of follows. I don't know if anybody notices that. Sometimes if you have cool color variation, it gives it a really neat look. So here's the top and bottoms. Just rip them. That's the bottom. There you go. Top, bottom, and middle, all out of one board. So you fit all the pieces. Should be a snug fit. Last piece. So that's the dry fit. Then I'll take them all apart and glue them. The front side, that's what it looks like. Now we gotta attach the side pieces. Gonna do that with the domino. And that center one's too small for the domino, so I just used a dowel for that one. And that's the door going together. It's all glued up. Final sand. Last cut to make is you have to cut a notch in the top and bottom so the door will fit inside those grooves we cut earlier. Just do that with a dado blade on the table saw. You can see it there. And the final assembly. See if the doors fit. There it is, man. Looks pretty good. I just skipped the finishing process. That's what it looks like all done. 360-degree view. And again, if you made it this far, thanks for watching, man. Really appreciate it. Like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Thumbs up. Thanks again for watching. My next video will be better, I promise. Thank you.